Hello everyone, I'm MK Amador and I'll be discussing behaviorism. Here's an outline of my discussion. First, the definition of behaviorism, the proponents of behaviorism in the classroom, and advice in using behaviorist approaches. So first, what is behaviorism? So behaviorist pedagogy or behaviorism looks at the observable actions of students and assesses whether they are learning as effectively as possible. So the central belief of a behaviorist is that students learn through reinforcement. So in order to understand how did this concept come about, I'll present to you two well-known proponents of this theory. So here are Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist, and Boris Frederick Skinner, an American psychologist and behaviorist. So Ivan Pavlov introduced the concept of classical conditioning. So ang kwento ni Ivan Pavlov ay every time he entered a room, kung nasaan yung dog niya na may dala siyang food, napapansin niya na ang dog niya salivates. And one time, nung pumasok siya sa room, kung nasaan yung dog, wala siyang dalang food, pero nagsalivate yung dog niya. So he wondered if he did something to make the dogs think they were getting food, could he make them drool whenever he wants to? So what did he do? So yung nasa first box, yan yung observation niya. The food is the unconditioned stimulus and ang response, unconditioned response ng dog is to salivate. So number 2 is dyan na nagsimula yung experiment niya. He introduced a neutral stimulus, which is the bell. And there's no conditioned response, no salivation doon sa dog. But on the box number 3, he introduced, sinabay niya na yung bell doon sa food. So every time he gives the dog a food, he rang a bell at nagsasalivate yung dog doon. Paulit-ulit yung ginawa yun. And then, number 4, the fourth box, every time he rang a bell, kahit wala na siya dalang food, there's a salivation that is happening from the dog. So, anong nangyari dyan? By taking an unconditioned stimulus, the food that caused the dogs to salivate, and combining it with something entirely neutral, the bell, he is able to remove the first stimulus and make something that was formerly neutral elicit a conditioned response. We can say that a new stimulus is learned. Now, B.F. Skinner took the classical conditioning one step further. What is operant conditioning? It's a learning process in which the probability of a response occurring is increased or decreased due to reinforcement or punishment. According to this principle, behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated, and behavior followed by unpleasant consequences is likely to be less repeated. So here, in his experiment with lab rats, meron siyang lab rat sa loob ng isang box, and sa loob ng isang box there's a rat, and there's a green light and there's a red light. So if there's a green light, when the rat presses the lever, when there's a green light, there's food that will come out. But if there's a red light at pag prines ng lab rat yung lever, ay makukuryente siya. So here you can see rewards introduced to increase a behavior. So uulitin niya syempre, yung pag-press ng lever during green light because there's food, and punishment introduced to decrease a behavior. Kapag red light naman, iiwasan niya yun kasi nakukuryente siya. So going back to the central belief that students learn through reinforcement, reinforcement encourages the repetition of a behavior or response each time the stimulus that provoked the behavior recurs. The behavior becomes more automatic with its repetition. And so in this diagram that we have here, behavioristic learning is the result of the relationship between the stimulus and the response. Okay, so how is the concept of behaviorism applied by the teachers in the classroom? So here are some common examples. rewarding students, no, for working well with commendations or praise points. The repetition of tasks increases to improve test scores and ultimately to get a better grade. And teachers who want students to do well on quizzes may encourage them to do so by assigning homework. They only have to complete if their in-class quiz grade is below a certain level. Now, students may study harder for the quiz so they don't have to do homework. So all of these examples are focused on shaping skill performance, and these are being widely used by teachers since time immemorial, since it clearly define and measure changes in behavior. However, critics of behaviorist approach encourage teachers to be wary of the downside of using pure behaviorism strategies because operant conditioning in education relies on extrinsic motivation, and when those motivating factors are removed, the behaviors they shaped are more likely to decrease or disappear as well. Um, it also downplayed the role of the student in the learning process since the teachers control the environment. No? Minamanipulate ng teacher yung environment. Um, then not all students who are engaged are learning, and we have to keep in mind that just because a student is engaged and working doesn't mean they are learning. Um, Teachers who use behaviorism as their primary theory do not teach students to think critically, solve problems, apply knowledge to new situations, innovate, or evaluate their experiences. And lastly, pure behaviorists ignore the social aspects of learning and key skills such as collaboration and communication, the skills that are really essential in life. And to end my discussion, I leave you with this. No? So as teachers, we need to have a varied approach in implementing instruction that promotes a well-rounded knowledge base and needed skills sets of our learners. Thank you.